Harpslingers, welcome to the Harpslinger Podcast. This is where you're going to be every week, hopefully, to spend a little time with your favorite harmonica players in the music business. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and ding the bell so we can let you know when we're going to have new content, which should be weekly. And if you're by any chance watching this on the Facebook page, on Honer Music Facebook page, there's also a little share button down there at the bottom left. If you just click that, share it to your personal Facebook page, we sure would appreciate it. All right, let's get started, y'all. This is a big one, folks. This is a big one. My next guest, he was born and raised in the Lone Star State, Dallas, Texas, to be exact. He and his harmonica have been a constant and integral part of Willie Nelson's band for about 47 years. And through more than 70 albums, extensive worldwide tours, movies, TV shows, music festivals, and Farm Aid, he's brought attention to this instrument like pretty much no one else before him. So, without further adu, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the legendary Mickey Raphael. How you doing, Mickey?
Impressive intro there.
Oh, well, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I had to have something special, to grab the people. It does sound a little bit like harmonica porn, though, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I'll buy into that.
Right on. Well, welcome to the show. I sure do appreciate it, man. I know that this is a rough time for everybody during this sort of COVID pandemic and the election process that's going on. Everybody's super stressed out, and for you to take a little time out of your day for us is so greatly appreciated. So thank you for being here, first and foremost.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and a privilege.
Right on, man. Thanks. Well, I got to say, my first memory of hearing you play on record is probably also my first sort of musical, harmonica influence. And my mom is and was a Willie Nelson fan. And when I was a young kid, I remember she bought the Stardust record. And we love standards in my family, and she played that record, all the time. And so, as I was preparing to do this session with you, I was just thinking, man, I think Mickey's probably one of the first influences I ever had with that Stardust record. And then as a teenager, I heard, the Motley Crue Smoking in the Boys' Room. And until recently, I never knew that was you. So you were definitely one of my absolute first influences. I remember trying to learn that harmonica solo and just thinking, wow, that is so badass. I had this one harmonica that I had found in my backyard, and there I was it wasn't in the same key, but I was trying to learn the part. And anyway, I just thought that was a really, really kind of a unique experience to have you on the show now, and that be my experience with you from an early point in my life.
Oh, thank you. Now I want to address that harmonica found in the backyard. I've had days like that where maybe I just wanted to toss it, into the yard.
We all have those days. Yeah. I'm glad you didn't do that. We all are.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, listen, if we talk about your early days, I was curious when I've listened to some of your other interviews and read some interviews about you over the years, and certainly as I was preparing for this, and I heard recently that you got your first harmonica kind of as a gift from a friend of your father's. Is that about right?
Yeah, a friend of my dad's that actually played a little harmonica and played washtub bass.
Okay.
And, for fun. And he was a lawyer, in case the washtub bass of the harmonica didn't work out.
Right.
But yeah, he was a Navy guy, and he said if you can play the Marines hymn or Anchors Away, or I can't remember the other assignment, or the Old Gray Mare. I'll get a
Okay.
harmonica. So my first harmonica was a Marine band. No, actually, it might have been a Navy band, which was the precursor to the Golden Melody.
I didn't even know that there was a Navy band harmonica.
Yeah, it was it was like had a gold cover,
Okay.
gold cover, and shaped the same as the Golden Melody.
Oh, I've seen that. Okay, yeah, but you can't get those anymore, right? I mean, I'm.
No, you can't. And there were, I think I have one somewhere, but it's all in pieces.
Yeah,
So he
right.
gave me my first harmonica, and I was, played the old Gray Marino Susanna, was my repertoire.
Right.
Great.
Right. Well, your repertoire certainly expanded since then. I mean, you've made like 70 records with Willie alone, and Lord knows how many records you've played on over the last, few decades. I have a list here that's, I'm almost, it would take a while to read it all, but it's so incredibly impressive. All the different artists that you've played with over the years. I mean, from all walks of music too, from Snoop Dogg to Motley Crue to of course Willie and to Wynton Marsalis, and the list goes on and on and on. How do you keep it fresh, man? How do you not copy yourself when you go into the studio to record on someone's record?
Well, I think that being lucky enough to play with different styles of music. I mean, I always thought of myself as a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Right.
So every time I'm at a session, it's still challenging for me. Because I'm not just doing country sessions or something.
Right.
Yeah. And the last session I did was was on a Blues Traveler record. Last week I played on with John Popper. We we did the Doors Roadhouse Blues.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we each took a split a solo and split fills and stuff.
That's
like
great.
That was fun. And John's one of those guys that's really helped to make to do something fresh on the harmonica and make the harmonica bring it some new life. And it was great to be involved in that.
Right.
Because I'm really not a blues player per se, but if I know a few licks, but it was great to be able to fall into that. And John's a great player and a great guy, but I think just playing with a diverse group of musicians keeps me fresh, because I'm always kind of searching for the right thing to do. Willie's last record, or what we're working on now, is a Sinatra record, or Sinatra tribute. So I had to play chromatic on several things, and that's not my first instrument.
Yeah.
But Matt Rollins, who co-produced the record, an incredible arranger and keyboard player, he wrote the parts out for me. So
Okay. Yeah, he's fantastic. He actually he played piano on the first High South record. I play in a band called High South, which is three guys singing harmonies and very reminiscent of Crosby, Stills and Nash, that sort of thing. And on our first record, we flew him to London. We actually recorded the record in Chiswick at a place called British Grove, which is Mark Knopfler's studio. And that was in itself was a pretty great experience. But to have Matt there, he was also the band leader, and he's absolutely fantastic. Now I know he also produced the John Popper last two John Popper records as well, right? So he's becoming like the harmonica go-to producer guy.
I guess so. I guess I'll have to do a record with him next.
Yeah, I noticed that you're also a producer. I mean, you produced was it 2009? You produced the Naked Willie record.
Yeah, it was kind of like my job was to unproduce. What we did was the same thing that they did with the Beatles. Let It Be Naked. Actually, they took all the strings off and remixed the record of the Phil Spector arrangements.
Yeah.
So I thought the record sounded great, and I kind of pitched the idea to Sony Legacy about taking some of the early RCA recordings of Willie's and taking off all the strings and the background voices and just stripping it down to the bare band, to the basic studio cats.
Right.
And I'm real happy with that. And then I was able to work on the box set for the Highwaymen Live.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Which, and I'm getting ready there's this new protocol called Sony 360, which is like the Dolby, the Atmos.
Okay. All right.
It's surround, but I mean surround. It's 11 speakers.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting ready to do to remix Redheaded Stranger, which was the first record.
Yeah.
that I did with Willie. So I mean, some of the songs like Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain only has 3 instruments on it, and to figure out where they're going to go, spread them out over 11 speakers is going to be
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, that's a sort of almost uncharted territory, right? I mean, can't be a lot of guys that have made records that way, where it's you're trying to figure it out as you go, how you're going to move that field of the stereo field around, and I guess it's not even stereo anymore. It's now it's beyond that, right?
Right. And then the engineer I use, Tony Castle, who records, Willie's records, he knows that format. So
Okay.
my job, I know where the bodies are buried. So, and he knows the technical stuff. So, together we should be able to
Yeah.
sound good. But we're going to keep it true. I'm not going to go in. I'm actually not going to go in, I promise, and redo all my harmonica parts.
Yeah, that would sort of be cheating, right?
Yeah. And this is 1973. There's a lot of things I would change since then. But we'll keep it as close to the true sound as it was. Otherwise, we've got just better EQ capabilities now, and making the instruments just sound better.
Right.
So I think that's where we're going to go as far as the mixes. You might hear a little more bass harmonica than you did originally.
Okay. All right. Nice. Speaking of bass harmonica, you've been playing. You recently recorded on Chris Stapleton new project. Is that right? Did I hear that right?
I did the first 2 records. I'm not on the new record.
Okay.
But that new record's fabulous. But I mean, we did so many songs, and then the songs that I was involved in didn't make the record. So
shame on.
It's kind of an ongoing thing with him. He's always, like when I toured with him, we were always recording in the dressing room. So he had a Pro Tools set up. So he'd be writing a song or working on an arrangement, and everything was recorded. Everything.
Right.
So, but this new record is great. It's got Bedmont Tench, from the Heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Keys and Mike Campbell playing guitar. So.
Oh, wow, fantastic! Yeah, and Benmont's also a harmonica player, a bit of a harmonica player too.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was the one playing harmonica with Tom Petty all the time. I'm pretty sure.
No, that's the guy that played I can't think of his name, but he was the utility guy.
Oh,
the guy that played rhythm guitar.
Okay. All right. I thought it was Benmont. All right, great, fantastic.
And Tom played a little bit too.
Tom too. Yeah. What a loss that has been. I mean,
yeah. And his birthday this weekend, 70th birthday.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just saw that on Instagram. It's just we've lost too many people, and now COVID on top of it. Who knows what is going to end up, being the outcome when we're all said and done with this thing. But anyway, hey, I noticed back to the Chris Stapleton thing. I was, I'm like everybody else. I'm a big Chris Stapleton fan, and there's a track on that record where you play a super bluesy. You say you're not a blues player per se, though. I mean, I hear lots of blues influence in your playing.
Yeah, I think the influence is there. I mean, my I love the acoustic guys. Sonny Terry, Brownie McGee. I grew up listening to John Sebastian, Jimmy Fadden.
From Nitty Dirt Band.
Because the folk scene is what I was involved in. But then Slim Harpo and Sonny Boy Williamson. Right. I love the acoustic. Howlin' Wolf. I love the acoustic.
Yeah.
So I was able to bring Paul Butterfield, of course. I was able to, I think, steal from those guys. And just kind of.
Those are the guys to steal from for sure, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, without a doubt. What
Brooks, who actually was a Dallas player who ended up playing with Waylon. On about 3 or 4 records. I mean, he was the first harmonica player I'd met, that actually sat me down and showed me a diatonic scale,
okay,
pentatonic scale on a diatonic harmonica.
Yeah, I can see why you would gravitate toward his playing also, because he's a great accompanist. He knows how to support a vocal and to play in a band setting. And as you know, we're famous for overplaying, right? So, or at least when we're coming up and trying to learn. I mean, I think that every time when I was a younger guy, I'd step up to a bandstand and ask if I could sit in. You could hear the eyes rolling and the guys groaning. Oh, don't let the harmonica player up here, right? So But he's not like that. He's super duper tasteful. I loved the way that he would comp underneath Waylon's vocal with
that rhythm thing.
yeah, really cool. It was just like adding a bit of percussion to the track, and
that way you could play more and not get in the way. I mean, the idea is to stay out of the vocal, stay away from the vocal. And Grady Martin, who was the guitar player, the session leader, guitar player on, all the sessions in Asheville from the 50s, maybe even the 40s on, told Charlie McCoy. Charlie McCoy told me the story, but Grady also called me down one time and said, man, he goes, take that thing out of, he goes, smoke a cigarette. Take that thing out of your mouth, you play too much.
And back then everybody did smoke cigarettes. So yeah.
He toured with us for about 10 years. And after about the 8th year, he's just said that. He goes, man, just take that thing out of your mouth. Just chill.
Right on. But it gets boring, right? I mean, unless you pick up a tambourine or some, bullshit.
What are you going to do? You're standing there. You've got nothing to hide behind.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So learning to comp is super important. So those guys that are listening that are just coming up to the podcast, that's a tip from Mickey Raphael. Learn to comp, man, or go smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, people have asked me, will you teach us this stuff, or do you give lessons? It's like, no, I don't give lessons. First off, I'm not a good teacher. I don't have the patience, but I can teach you when not to play.
Right.
I think that's my strong suit, is when and when not to play.
Yeah,
I think that's I think that's more important than having the chops, the licks.
For sure. I mean, because you can really show what you don't know, I guess, if you also when you're just playing all the time, when you won't take it out of your mouth.
You can be a brilliant player, but after a while, the ears get tired. Nobody wants to hear how brilliant you are.
That's true.
That out. Nobody wants to know how brilliant I am.
I love it. We're going to quote you on that one. That's a good quote.
Yeah.
So that's Miles Davis. Was very much would always say, hey, it's about what you're not playing, man. It's
actually name drop. I actually got to spend some time with him, and he said it's the space between the notes. I mean, that's what I can quote from him.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a monster. Did you get to hang out with him?
Yeah, I wonder if I got that picture of me and him. He came to Vegas. I don't have it here. He came to Vegas because he was a fan, and our manager managed him. So he spent about 2 weeks with us. We played Caesar's Palace, and he'd sit by me on my side of the stage every night.
Gosh, okay. Did that make you nervous? That would make me nervous.
That made me very nervous. But I was in his room one day, and he grabbed a laundry list from the hotel and says, "I'm going to write Willie's song." And he draws out some staff lines and starts writing some stuff out. And he goes, "Oh, hell with it." And he said, "I got to go pee." So he goes to the head. And he takes some music and throws it in the trash. Well, as soon as he went to the bathroom, of course, I dove in the trash and got it. I've got that piece of music. I've got it framed somewhere, But that night, he came to the show, and he's sitting on the side of the stage. And afterwards, he walked over and picked up one of my harmonicas and says, "Man, how do you play this thing?" And he put it in his mouth and started, just kind of breathing on it. And I'm next to him playing a little bit. And the camera person came by and snapped a shot. So I've got a shot of Miles and I cheek to cheek.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that needs to be like above the fireplace in your house,
or a tattoo or something.
Or a tattoo or something. Yeah, yeah. So speaking of Willie, you joined Willie back in the early '70s, 1973, I guess. Is that about right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so, let's talk about fortuitous moments in your career. You're invited by UT football coach Royal to a pickin' party, and with Willie Nelson and Charlie Pride. I mean, that in and of itself, if nothing had come from that, what a great moment in your life. But I think it's really interesting that the sort of the decisions we make, or the things that we do along the way that turn into magical moments. For you, that turned into 47 years and 70 albums, 70 plus records with one of arguably, not even arguably. I mean, I think it's a fact that Willie Nelson he's a national treasure you know,
Just being
and
at the right place at the right time, really.
I mean, just incredible, man. That's what was that? What were there nerves when you were, were you
No, because
nervous?
I didn't know who Willie was, and I had met Charlie before. My dad was an interior designer and had built some custom furniture for Charlie, so I had met him as a kid. But when I meet, I guess Coach, and I wasn't a big football fan, but Coach was an icon in Texas.
Hmm.
So to meet him was really cool. And Willie, I didn't know much about him. I had one Willie record um, because I was playing with B.W. Stevenson at the time, and we were on RCA,
Uh
and
huh.
we, so I was able to go in the vault one time at the
Right.
rec- at the in the RCA offices and saw this record that was Willie and Family, and it was such a weird album cover. I had to have the record.
Right.
It was them. It was the whole family of Willie and everybody, the band and all the family, standing around a bonfire in Ridgetop outside his farm in Ridgetop.
Wow.
So
Wow.
this is a motley crew looking bunch.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's
So
all.
then when I met Willie and he's playing these songs, Nightlife and Funny How Time Slips Away and Crazy, then it kind of registered, oh, that's who this guy is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, wow. And until that point, you were playing with B.W. Stevenson, who some people probably don't know. Uh, I mean, he was the first guy to sing "My Maria." In fact, I think he wrote that song.
He wrote that song.
Such a huge hit for Brooks and Dunn that it sort of maybe overshadowed that original. But I remembered when I heard Brooks and Dunn do it, I thought that's a cover. I know that song from somewhere, and I had to go back and look to see back then who that was. And you were in that band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really just a duo at the time. I mean, with the first couple of records, and then when we toured, it was just he and I, and then we got a rhythm section to tour with us. But,
Okay. Right on. So you guys were doing a lot of you had done quite a bit of touring before you got on board with Willie.
yeah, in a van, we went across the country and played coffee houses and stuff for a couple of years. So
Nice. It's when I think of Dallas, Texas. I spent 10 years there myself.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a great city. I mean, and Texas was my wife and I lived there. I guess almost 11 years. It was just great to us, and we enjoyed living there. But I don't. When I think of Dallas, I don't think of a folk music scene. At least not anymore. But I guess.
No, it was in the 70s, though. I mean, early 70s, there was a little coffee house called Rubia down
Okay.
it was on McKinney.
Oh, okay. On McKinney, right?
It's a tiny little club, and Jerry Jeff played there, and Michael Murphy,
Right.
and Ray Wiley Hubbard. But Ray Wiley was in a group called Three Faces West, and it was a trio.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Michael Murphy was like the biggest star to come in there, and he was a big deal because he moved to LA and was writing for the Monkees. So that was a big
Wow.
deal.
It's always interesting to hear the little things in the background that guys have been doing. Glenn Campbell was like that before he became sort of Glenn Campbell. He was with the Beach Boys and, he's a great studio musician and all of that stuff. It's just, I don't think this stuff happens by accident. These guys like yourself are out hustling, I think it's just interesting also to know that, who the guys were that you were running with in Dallas. I mean, the guys that you just mentioned are also just amazing artists in their own right, and that everyone knows. So right from the beginning, you were in the mix down there.
It's sort of, and I mean, I was a kid, so I was just, kind of hanging around, and once in a while they'd let me sit in with them and play. Guy Clark would come through and play, and they'd let me. Michael Murphy would let me play a song or two with them. So that's really how I cut my teeth. But
Right.
that's where I first met Don Brooks. So he was playing there, and I, was a big fan of his, and would just
Mm-hmm.
go there every time he played.
Right. Wow. So I got to say when I hear you play, I mean your sound is so immediately identifiable. But I was curious if who other than harmonica players, if you do, I mean, do you listen to other players for inspiration? Are there, who are you listening to right now? What do you?
Listen to King Curtis, for phrasing.
Okay.
And I just got Kim Wilson's new record, which is
He's
wonderful.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. Right on. Yeah. I was just talking.
Marcellus, just playing melody, just trying to get an idea how to, stick with a melody, I think is so important,
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I find out when I'm sitting in with a band, or if they ask me to come up and play, and I don't know their arrangement, and I maybe not be too familiar, if at all, with their song, I'm immediately trying to listen to the melody. So when they throw me the solo, I have something to play, and I don't think that's, I think that's sort of a good move, instead of just trying to just solo, just free,
Yeah, no, it's a great move, and it's the hardest thing to do is just keep it simple and stick to the melody.
Right, right. Going back again to what Miles said, you're playing the right stuff at the right time, which you're a master at, by the way. I mean, I think you are like the guy. You're the master at knowing what to play and when to play. I mean, you're able to take one note, and ring it out, and really, and you have a lot to say in one note. And I think that might be, you say your biggest thing is knowing when not to play, but I mean, maybe maybe that's secondary to your ability to just say so much with one note. I mean, is that something that when you're playing, that you're just, what's your approach? What is your approach when you're playing, either live or in the studio that way?
Keeping it simple is the idea.
Okay, right on.
Less is more. That's what Willie's always kind of stressed with me.
Okay, all right, right on. So speaking of Willie again, and Chris Stapleton, whom I mentioned before, and this track that I was so turned on by, I think it's called "Them Stems."
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's for those that don't know this track. It's about a guy who's it seems like his weed dealer might be, back in prison, and he's he's having a hard time because he's down to stems. He's just smoking stems, and then I noticed that you played on a Snoop Dogg project. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it was Willie and Snoop kind of together.
Oh, okay, well, even better. So you've got this sort of through line of working with notorious pot smokers, and and I wondered if you want me to cut this out, I will. But I was just curious. I'm an occasional pot smoker myself, and Willie Weed is to say it's famous is maybe an understatement. Any great stories about Willie Weed that you might be willing to to share?
I remember when he was testing out the Willie Weed to see which strain they were going to stick with for Willie's Reserve. He walks out on the stage. We're playing a big festival. He walks out on stage, picks up his guitar, and we're all there, kind of vamping, getting ready to play. And then he puts down his guitar and walks back to the bus. And it had just gotten too high to play, and we're standing there. It's like, okay, what do we do now? Just kind of leave or.
Right. That's fantastic. Well, I mean, there's a lot of songs even written about. I think Toby Keith has a song, "I'll Never Smoke Weed with Willie Again." And, it's sort of famous for being extremely strong. I even actually have a story. I won't mention names just to protect the the innocent. But I was at a Nashville live music venue a number of years ago, and a guitar player friend of mine came in, and he knew I like to partake occasionally, and he said, "Hey, who's driving tonight? You or your wife?" And my wife was standing there. She said, "I can drive. Why?" And he goes, "Well, I've got some Willie Weed." He's like, "Come on backstage, and I'll let you try it." I'm like, "Oh, this is fantastic." So I considered myself a professional, and so he offered me a little bitty one hitter, and I tried it, and then I immediately said, "Hey, let's do another one." He goes, "Hey, man, just sit back on that for a second, and if you still want some, you can smoke as much as you want." 5 minutes later, I was in the car with the seat laid back, and my wife was driving me home to our apartment. It was I was done for the evening, so I can relate with Willie. Well, listen, I know you were a Marine band guy from way back. You also play the Rockets, yeah?
I do like the Rockets. I like recording with the Rockets.
Yeah.
But I like the Marine bands. I like the Woodcomb, but the Rocket is really consistent too. It's just a very mellow tone.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been using them as of lately in the studio.
I've been using them live and in the studio, to be honest with you. But I like them live because they're so responsive and so sort of resonant. They're loud.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm always trying to keep up with a guitar player, no matter what stage I'm on. So this kind of helps me at least hear myself with the side vents. And, what other harps do you like to play?
Well, I like, the anything with the Woodcomb.
Okay.
Rockets, really. Oh, and I like the echo harps too. I use a
Right
lot.
on.
So,
Yeah.
so just that time when you shouldn't be playing, you want to play something with very low movement, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like a pad. So I use the echo harps a lot.
It adds a lot of texture, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right on. So, and you mentioned earlier that you also play a little chromatic, yeah?
A little bit. Yeah, yeah. It's something I should be woodshedding right now and practicing every day. In fact, I took a lesson from Rob Paparazzi. He's a great player and a great teacher, but
Yeah,
he gave enough information to last me a year. So,
really, right on in one lesson.
about learning that stuff, you got to practice every day.
Yes,
Have to
absolutely.
get my discipline a little better.
All of that muscle memory from the diatonic goes away, and you're like, it's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's like this. It's tough. Yeah. Well, I saw, I follow you on Instagram, of course, and I saw a photo that you posted where you had it was either a bass harp or I think it was actually maybe a chromatic. No, I guess it was the bass harp where you had taped up the harmonica so you
Oh
would.
yeah, yeah. Oh, McCoy told me about that when he was playing on the Boxer. I think it was that he taped. I said, "Man, you're all over this thing." He goes, "Well, I just tape around the notes that I'm supposed to play."
That's
So
fantastic.
it works, because it's not. Again, it's not my first instrument. I don't get to play it that much, so I'm not too proud to have to tape that thing up.
Right.
Um,
And you've worked with Paul Simon yourself, right?
I have worked with Paul. Yeah, well, I've been on. I haven't really recorded with him. I've sat in with him. I played with him when he played the Ryman here, and
Okay.
we're friends. I mean, I've spent time with him, but I haven't. I've never really been. Oh, I did go in the studio with him. That's all right, because he produced. Funny that I'd forget recording with Paul Simon. He produced Willie doing Graceland. So
Oh, okay, right, right,
but I've never played on a Paul Simon record per se.
right. But
But
you've
when
worked.
I was a kid, I used to mow lawns in the summer, and I used to, but that tedious work, I used to just fantasize about playing with Paul.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
told him that, and of course he said, come over and do my lawn.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Well, he sounds like he's got a good sense of humor. But I'm sort of stealing. I'm ripping off from another interview that I saw where you had said that he sort of put you through some paces where you had to he sort of pulled everything that you knew how to play. He got
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and then but then you ended up using.
the very first take.
Yeah.
Before he got there, yeah. But he does. He's not sure what he wants. Sometimes at this particular session, he wasn't sure what he wanted, but he knew what he didn't want. So he gets you to give everything you've got. So he has a nice palette,
Yeah.
to work with, and
Right.
you can just choose.
Yeah. When you do you find when you're going into the studio when you're not with Willie when you're doing just a session in Nashville, you're in town to play with Kenny Chesney or something, do you go in, you do like what's your strategy in there? Do you go in and just do straight passes? Do you like to cut it up and go, I want to do this, I want to do a number of solos here, or what's your strategy there?
Well, it depends on the producer. And with Kenny, who's really hands-on in the studio, and Buddy Cannon, who also produces Willie and produces Kenny, we'll go in and he'll just say, at first he'll have me just play whenever I hear it, or just play top to bottom,
Okay.
so they have a lot of information to work with. Then he might tweak it and say, okay, just play on the second verse, or just take the first half of the solo.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
but at first they may just have me play all over, and play too much.
Right.
So they have some information to work with.
Do you find that your first take is oftentimes your best take?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other times, it's the most natural one.
The most inspired.
Most inspired. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I regret to say this, but sometimes after like 5 takes, 5 full passes, I start to get bored.
Yeah. Or if they say, oh, that's what we want, but just tweak it a little bit, and then I forget what I played, on the previous take. I've got to go back and play it for me.
Right. And copying yourself sometimes can be really difficult. We were talking with Jelly Roll Johnson last week, and he was talking about, sometimes the most difficult thing, he'll go in, maybe it's a session he'd done a while back, and they want him to recreate that harp part. And he's like, I don't even know what I did. Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes I'll play on a record for Willie, and then they'll send a film crew and want to film me lip syncing, to film like a little video or a
Uh-huh.
promotional thing, and it's like I have no idea where I played on that record.
Right.
If it's so, just film me playing and just cut it. That's what they do. They just cut it into it.
Right on. Right on. Well, if before we say goodbye, I want to ask you just a couple of sort of mundane questions, but maybe to you, but a lot of guys out there would love to know, what kind of rig you like to play through when you're doing more of the acoustic thing, and also when you're doing more of the rock and bluesy sort of bullet mic sounding sort of thing. What do you typically take out on the road with you?
On the road, I'll take my main rig is a Beyer M160 mic through an AEA Mic Pre.
Okay.
And then just go right into the board from that. And with Stapleton, I use the same rig, except he's got me playing through. I've got it through this little stomp box, a little Moog delay.
Oh, sweet, man.
So it's got a little overdrive and just a little delay, but still the same. The M160 in the AA3, and then into board. And then I play bass harp on one song with Chris, and there's I think it's a Beyer mic, and it's a drum mic on a little gooseneck with a clamp, and it clamps right onto the bass harp. And the song has only got 1 or 2 notes on it, so it's perfect, and it just fills the room so well.
Well, that's incredible. And in the studio, using pretty much the same gear, trying to capture the same sounds.
Studio, I'll bring the Royer. Royer.
Okay. Oh, right on. Okay, great.
The 122 ribbon.
Nice. I'll try to write all this stuff down and put it into the show notes below. We'll be airing this on the Harpslinger YouTube page and also on the Honer Music Facebook page. Comes out next Tuesday. So if you get a chance, check out your own interview. Yeah, man. Well, listen, I won't keep you. I know that today is a crazy day for you, and I'm so very grateful that you took this time to spend a little time with me today.
Thank you. It's fun. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet, man. When do you expect to get back out on the road?
When it's safe to get an 88-year-old guy out there,
I guess that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's we have penciled in dates in March, but I can't believe that we'd be ready to go out that soon.
Right. Okay.
But, as soon as it's safe,
to go.
Waters, it will be there. I'm sure. Willie's chomping at the bit. I heard from him a couple of days ago. He just sent me a text that said, "Let's pick."
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Where is he right now? Is he in Austin?
He's in Austin. He said he was about to pick in his pants.
What a sense of humor, man. I mean, that guy. Wow. And what a wonderful career that you guys have had together. I mean, I will say this before we go. It seems like every time you see Willie, you're right there with him. Even if no one else in the band is there, you're always there. And I just think that speaks volumes about you and your playing, but also, it's great for Harmonica.
I'm just the pushiest. I'm the squeakiest.
Right on. That's cool, man. Listen, have a great day. Peace and love to you. Thanks a lot. And maybe we can do this again sometime. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you for having me.
You got it, brother. Have a great day. Bye-bye.